There's been a lot of discussion online lately about how I talk about my family.
You've seen too many things that turn out to be too good to be true.
Typically, I prefer not to give attention to the internet trolls.
Do I ever cross your mind anytime?
There is a very simple reason why I post about some of my children on social media and not others.
It's undeniable that we should be together.
The children that I do not currently have relationships with, I don't post about them.
My shattered dreams and broken heart.
Another thing a lot of people have been talking about is the lawsuit my adult daughter Brianna brought against me.
I can be the man you need me to be.
My biological daughter Brianna sued me for defamation and breach of contract.
But I've one last cry, one last cry.
We settled the case earlier this year, and I agreed to pay Brianna some money, but here's the interesting part.
I can hear her heartbeat from 1,000 miles.
Finally, I want to address the abandonment issue for the last time.
Still have your picture in the frame.
Brian McKnight is an icon in R&B, the voice behind timeless hits like Back at One and One Last Cry. But here's a question most people won't ask. What if I told you the man we've all loved for decades isn't as perfect as he seems? Behind the smooth vocals and Grammy nods lies a father who's been accused of abandoning his own children, a man involved in a lawsuit filed by one of his daughters. That's right. While McKnight has serenaded us with his love songs, his real-life family drama paints a much darker picture. You might think you know Brian McKnight, but trust me, you've only heard half the story. Let's dive into the shocking truth that's been hidden for far too long. When you think of Brian McKnight, you probably picture the smooth crooner with the soothing voice that has filled countless romantic playlists over the years. With 17 Grammy nominations, a Soul Train award, and a string of chart-topping hits, McKnight has cemented himself as a beloved figure in the R&B world. His image has always been that of a family man, the guy who sings songs about love and devotion, someone you'd expect to have it all together when it comes to relationships. But here's the thing. This family man image, it's a carefully crafted facade. A mask that's been worn so well that no one ever thought to question the man behind the music. What most of us didn't know is that McKnight's personal life is anything but smooth sailing. Behind the romantic ballads and the perfect father vibes, there's a tangled web of broken relationships, abandoned children, and family disputes. So how did this perfect image of the family man come to be? Well, for starters, Brian was always portrayed as the ideal catch, successful, talented, and of course, a loving father. The media built him up to be the guy who was there for his kids, who would do anything for his family. But as we'll see, the reality is far from this ideal. The truth is, McKnight's perfect family was anything but perfect, and his role as a father, well, that's been more complicated than the world was led to believe. But why didn't anyone question this image before? Maybe it's because we want to believe the story we're told, especially when it's about a guy who made our hearts swoon with songs about love and devotion. Or maybe it's because McKnight himself allowed us to believe it. He let us buy into the fantasy. After all, it's easier to hide behind a persona of perfection than to face the messy reality of his personal life. But now, we're about to pull back the curtain on what's really been going on behind the scenes, and trust me, what you're about to hear is anything but smooth. Here's where it gets juicy. You see, while Brian McKnight has been serenading the world with love songs, his actual love life has been far from perfect. In fact, it's been a total disaster. Ready for the shocking part? McKnight has fathered 5 children with 3 different women, and the real kicker? He's been accused of abandoning his own kids. That's right. The man who sings Back at One has clearly forgotten the first rule of fatherhood, being there for your children. And what makes this even crazier? One of his own children, Brianna, has taken him to court. Yes, you heard that right. His daughter has actually sued him, accusing him of defamation and invasion of privacy, after he publicly accused her of something so shocking it had to go viral. But what did Brian have to say about all this? Well, instead of taking accountability, he defended himself, claiming that he was always paying child support on time, and that his estrangement from his children was all their fault. According to him, it wasn't his issue. It was theirs. And while he puts up a front on social media showing his love for his new wife and kids, His older children have been left in the shadows, completely ignored. So, here's my hot take. Brian McKnight is not the loving family man he's made himself out to be. In fact, his neglect of his older kids paints a far darker picture of him than the world ever knew. Sure, McKnight's got a public image as a dedicated father and a doting husband, but when you dig deeper, it's clear that his own kids haven't been part of that picture for years. It's hard to reconcile the man who pours his heart out in song with the man who shut out his own children. And we haven't even gotten to the wildest part of all this. Stick around, because I'm about to dive deeper into why McKnight's whole image of perfect dad is a total sham. And you won't believe who's calling him out. Now let's talk about why Brian McKnight's personal drama goes far deeper than just a few bad parenting decisions. It's not just about a man who forgot to show up for his kids. It's about the deeper issue of how he's actively chosen to hide behind his public persona while simultaneously pushing his children aside. You see, McKnight switched from a doting father to someone who, as his sons put it, cut them off financially, didn't happen overnight. It started when he met his current wife, Leilani Mendoza. Their relationship shifted the narrative in McKnight's life, and unfortunately, his relationship with his children took the hit. While Leilani was stepping into the picture as the new love of his life, Brian's biological children, who had once been incredibly close to him, found themselves pushed further and further into the background. Why? Because it was easier to build a new family with Leilani, and as he got caught up in the romance of it all, the kids he already had didn't seem to matter as much. Brian Jr. and Nico, his sons from a previous relationship, even claimed that McKnight distanced himself completely from them while showering Leilani's children with attention. He threw them to the side like an old pair of shoes while he focused on his new life, with a new woman and a new set of priorities. But it's not just about playing favorites in the family, it's also about control. McKnight doesn't want the world to see the truth about his fractured family, so he keeps the narrative alive that he's always been there for them. Instead of taking responsibility for the mess he's made, he continues to paint himself as the victim. According to him, his kids crossed the line when they became too much of a problem, and he just decided he was done. Let's be real here. It's not just about loving one family over another. It's about McKnight choosing to maintain the image of a perfect life, while erasing the very children who helped build that image. And the most damning part? He lets the world believe that the issues with his family are just some private matter that doesn't concern anyone else. That's where the lie is. He doesn't want to face the public consequences of his actions. Instead, he plays the role of the misunderstood father who's been wronged by his ungrateful kids. And then there's the fact that this story isn't isolated. It's a larger commentary on the pressure that comes with fame and what happens when celebrity culture collides with family responsibilities. McKnight is just one of many stars who've had to juggle the demands of a public image with the real-life consequences of personal neglect. So why should we give him a pass? Why should we continue to support an image that's based on a lie? Brian McKnight may want to ignore the public outcry, but this isn't going away. The question remains, will he ever own up to his mistakes, or is he too deep in the fantasy to face the music? Now, let's look at some concrete proof that backs up this whole mess of a situation. You can't just take my word for it. There's a mountain of evidence that shows just how deep Brian McKnight's neglect really goes. We're talking about not just broken relationships, but the actions that prove he's intentionally turning his back on his older kids. First up, let's address the lawsuit. In 2020, his daughter Brianna McKnight filed a lawsuit against him. This wasn't some petty family drama. This was serious. She accused her father of defamation and invasion of privacy after he aired their family's dirty laundry on social media. Brianna claimed that McKnight publicly embarrassed her by accusing her of an inappropriate relationship with a cousin, something she says was completely unfounded. As if that wasn't bad enough, she amended the lawsuit to include claims that he also failed to pay a $1 million life insurance policy, which had been part of a 2003 family court judgment. But it gets even crazier. Brianna and Brian Jr. have both gone public, calling out their father for abandoning them in favor of his new family. In Instagram posts, Brianna revealed just how much her father's absence hurt her. She said she grew up believing that her father didn't love her, that he didn't want to visit, and that he didn't care. And instead of offering any type of heartfelt apology or effort to repair the relationship, McKnight just doubled down. He claimed that he'd always paid his child support on time and that the issues with his children were their fault, not his. Let's pause for a second and really think about this. You're telling me that a man who's been in the public eye for decades, singing about love and commitment, is now on social media attacking his own kids? This isn't a one-time thing. This is a pattern of behavior where McKnight is more than happy to play the role of the victim and ignore the very children who look up to him. It's almost as if he wants to keep up the illusion of the perfect family while he quietly shuns the real one. Then, let's talk about his own social media posts. When Brianna and Brian Jr. called him out, McKnight didn't try to mend the relationship. He posted more pictures with his new wife and her children, flaunting them as if to say, "Look at what I have now." But wait, there's more. He even went so far as to post a letter to his newborn son, writing, "After I'm gone, I bestow upon you all of the fruits of my labor as my true heir." That's right. He publicly declared his newborn child as his heir, without even acknowledging his older children. Can you imagine how Brian Jr. and Brianna must feel reading that? It's clear as day. Brian McKnight is playing favorites. He's prioritizing Leilani's children over his own biological ones. And in doing so, he's completely alienated his older kids. And for what? To maintain a perfect image of family bliss? To cover up years of neglect and abandonment? The fact is, McKnight's actions have been completely out of line with his public image. He's trying to rewrite his narrative by continuing to post happy family moments while leaving his past and his children behind. And the worst part? The whole world is watching as he continues to get away with it. But the real question is, how long can he keep up the charade before it all comes crashing down? It's not just about social media posts or lawsuits. It's about the cold, hard reality of Brian McKnight's behavior and how it's been exposed over the years. Let's dig into more shocking evidence that not only backs up the allegations, but also highlights how McKnight has gone to great lengths to erase his own children from his life. Take, for example, the music video scandal that sent shockwaves through the media in 2012. While McKnight was working on his midlife crisis project, an X-rated anthem about a woman's meat wallet, yes, you read that correctly, the situation took an even darker turn. McKnight invited his two sons, Brian Jr. and Nico, to collaborate with him on the track, not just as musicians but as featured artists. The song and the music video, filled with explicit content, featured McKnight's sons rapping about sexual exploits surrounded by adult film stars. It was as cringeworthy as it sounds, but it was also a massive red flag about McKnight's lack of judgment and the way he dragged his own kids into his own toxic publicity stunt. The video was a disaster in the making. It got pulled from YouTube not once, but twice due to its explicit nature. Yet McKnight didn't seem fazed by the backlash. Instead of trying to reel in the drama, he leaned into it, embracing the controversy and continuing with his reckless behavior. It wasn't just a bad decision on his part. It was a pattern of making poor choices at the expense of his kids' futures. His relationship with his sons was already strained, and this public embarrassment only widened the gap. The fallout from this video was felt by his family, but McKnight was more interested in milking the attention rather than repairing his fractured relationships. And this didn't end with just the music video. The tension between McKnight and his children became more and more evident as the years went by. In 2019, when Brianna called him out for neglecting his role as a father, McKnight didn't respond with empathy or remorse. Instead, he doubled down and publicly blamed his children, accusing them of being the ones who pushed him away. This was a man who had long ago stopped acting like a father. He'd become a man obsessed with protecting his image at any cost. He refused to acknowledge the deep hurt he had caused his own kids, choosing to paint himself as the wronged one in the situation. But there's more. While McKnight continued to flaunt his love for his new family, often posting about his newfound happiness with Leilani, his older children were completely erased from the picture. In one post, McKnight even referred to Leilani's children as the perfect kids I always wanted. Imagine being Brian Jr. and Brianna, scrolling through your dad's social media and seeing this blatant favoritism. It wasn't just insensitive, it was a slap in the face. How do you reconcile that kind of neglect with the loving, devoted dad you once thought you had? Let's also talk about the real cost of McKnight's actions. By publicly cutting ties with his older children, Brian has not only fractured his own family, but he's also set a dangerous example for other fathers in the spotlight. His refusal to take accountability for his actions sends a message that it's okay to abandon your children when they no longer fit into your ideal narrative. The entertainment industry has seen countless examples of absentee fathers, but McKnight's story hits different. It's the tale of a man who had everything and lost it all by choosing himself over his kids. He's not just a bad father, he's a cautionary tale of how fame, ego, and personal neglect can ruin a family. When you look at the full scope of McKnight's behavior, his abandonment of his children, the public spectacles he's created, and the disrespect he's shown them, it's clear that he's not the man he appears to be on stage. And as much as we want to believe the guy who croons about love, we have to face the truth. Brian McKnight is a manipulator who has used his family and his fame for his own benefit while leaving a trail of broken relationships behind him. Brian McKnight's story isn't just an isolated case of a celebrity father falling short. It's part of a much bigger, more troubling trend that seems to plague the entertainment industry, especially within the Black community. And when you look at McKnight's actions through this lens, you start to see a deeper issue at play: the normalization of absent fathers in the spotlight and how celebrity culture perpetuates this cycle of neglect. When you think of the entertainment industry, what do you see? Glitz, glam, and the illusion of perfection. The world tends to gloss over the messy parts, choosing instead to focus on the shiny, glamorous surface. But behind that surface lies a culture where fame often becomes a shield for personal irresponsibility, and where fathers, especially Black fathers, are too often given a pass for abandoning their children. McKnight isn't the only one in this narrative. He's part of a larger pattern that includes people like Scottie Pippen, Dr. Dre, and countless others who have faced similar accusations from their own kids. In McKnight's case, his estrangement from his children isn't just a personal issue. It's a symptom of something far more insidious. It's a reflection of a larger societal issue, where Black men in the public eye are often celebrated for their professional success, but their personal failures are overlooked. The media, the fans, and the industry all too often excuse their neglect, allowing them to keep their reputation intact while the children they've abandoned suffer in silence. Let's be honest, McKnight's actions are a wake-up call for all of us. The idea that a man can father multiple children, neglect them, and still maintain a spotless reputation is a dangerous myth. McKnight has been able to avoid the full consequences of his actions because of his fame, and that's not just unfair. It's dangerous. It creates a precedent where celebrity fathers can act irresponsibly, knowing that their fame will protect them from true accountability. This is a problem that goes beyond McKnight. It's a broader issue in the industry that needs to be addressed. The public has been trained to turn a blind eye to the darker side of fame, but when we look at these stories, whether it's McKnight or anyone else, we're reminded that fame doesn't erase responsibility. And while McKnight continues to flaunt his new family, posting picture-perfect moments with his wife and children, his older children are left in the cold. This isn't just about family drama. It's about how society allows public figures to rewrite their personal history, erasing the people they've hurt in the process. It's about how we give celebrities the space to be perfect while their real-life actions are brushed under the rug. It's time we stop celebrating broken families as long as the stars still have the spotlight. It's time to hold these figures accountable for their actions, not just as public figures, but as fathers, partners, and human beings. Brian McKnight's story is a stark reminder that we cannot continue to separate the art from the artist when the artist's personal life is a train wreck. It's easy to want to believe in the fantasy McKnight has sold us, the story of the perfect dad who croons his way into our hearts with songs about love. But now, it's time for the truth to be told. And when the truth comes out, we need to stop letting these stars hide behind their fame and start holding them accountable for the damage they cause off the stage. McKnight's legacy shouldn't just be about his songs. It should also be about how he chose his new life over his older children and how that decision shaped the family he left behind. The question is, will we let him off the hook like we've done so many times before, or will we finally demand the truth? So, where does that leave Brian McKnight? Can a man who's abandoned his own children ever truly redeem himself? Can he repair the relationships he's broken, or has he gone too far down the path of ego and fame? We've seen the public image, the R&B heartthrob, the family man, the romantic singer who serenades millions. But now, After peeling back the layers, it's clear that the real Brian McKnight is much more complicated and much darker than the persona we've been sold. The truth is, McKnight's personal life has become a cautionary tale, a story about how fame can distort reality, how a carefully crafted image can obscure the damage that's done behind closed doors. His refusal to acknowledge his mistakes, his constant need to protect his image at all costs, and his apparent indifference to the pain he's caused his own children raises serious questions about his character. As we've seen, this isn't just about a man who made a few bad choices. This is about a pattern of neglect and the lengths McKnight has gone to in order to protect himself while hurting those closest to him. His sons, his daughter, and even his ex-wife have all been casualties in this battle for control over his public image. And here's the sad reality. McKnight may never fully repair the relationships he's torn apart. Maybe he'll continue to post about his perfect life with Leilani, ignoring the past and the children he's chosen to leave behind. Maybe he'll try to spin the narrative, claiming he's always been a good father, just misunderstood. But no amount of social media posts or songs will ever erase the damage that's been done. So, as much as we love the music, as much as we've all vibed to those love songs, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of legacy does McKnight want to leave behind? Is it the legacy of a father who couldn't be bothered to show up for his children when they needed him the most? Or is it the legacy of a man who owned his mistakes and tried to rebuild what was broken? We may never know the answer, but what we do know is this: Brian McKnight's story is far from the fairy tale we once believed it to be. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we stop idolizing celebrities for their achievements and start holding them accountable for their actions offstage too. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think McKnight can ever repair his legacy, or has he permanently tarnished it? Drop a comment below, like the video if you think the truth needs to be heard, and don't forget to subscribe for more explosive stories like this one. Thanks for watching.